Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Rangers Review morning special, a Sunday review, if you like, looking back on yesterday's draw against Hibs at Easter Road. Just myself on my Todd here this morning. It's an opportunity for you guys to put questions in, give us your thoughts after the eventful unfolding of events over in Leith yesterday at lunchtime. Of course, Rangers dropped 2 points in stoppage time. Hibernian salvaging a draw against nine-man Rangers. We'll talk the controversial refereeing decisions and Rangers' domestic form, which I know they've come in for a bit of criticism of late in terms of tempo and style of play. So we'll touch on that as well. So don't be shy, get your questions in, folks. Just a reminder, though, we've got that great offer on the website, still on offer. You can see a little ticker below, £2 for 2 months worth of coverage. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details and sign up. Only £2.99 per month thereafter. So it's an absolute bargain. And before we get the viewers find out that I'm on, it's a bit of a surprise show here this morning. I'll give you an idea of what's on the website this morning. Fantastic article from Joshua Barry, who was at the game for us yesterday, talking about Rangers' domestic issues that run deeper than the performance yesterday at Hibs. And I'll stick the link in the comment section as well, so you can have a wee read of that at your leisure. There's also a great interview on there if you want to take your mind away from yesterday's match. I've interviewed Andy Scott, the sculptor who created the iconic John Gregg statue, which sits proudly just outside the main stand, of course, commemorating the 66 souls lost in the Ibrox disaster in 1971. So you can go and have a read of that. I'll put the link in the comment section as well. And there's also an interview if you prefer watching your content. It's on our YouTube channel as well, so you can go and have a little watch of that when you find time to do so. Okay, some questions coming in. Before we do that, we'll start off from team selection. Of course, Giovanni van Bronckhorst named this 11 to start the match. No Ben Davies or Ridvan Yilmaz. I predicted that they could come into the starting lineup, but Yilmaz was on the bench. Still no Ben Davies in the matchday squad. So it remains to be seen if he'll feature on Wednesday night against PSV. It's more than likely going to be the partnership of Connor Goldson and James Sands. So Rangers lined up McLaughlin in goal, Tavernier, Goldson, Sands and Barisic across the back. Jack came back in to partner John Lundstrom with Ravi Matondo on the right, Tom Lawrence through the middle and Ryan Kent on the left-hand side. Antonio Cholak leading the line once again. Pretty slow start, you've got to say, from Rangers. The opening goal came just at the tail end of the first half, a penalty. James Tavernier dispatching with aplomb. What was your thoughts on the penalty, folks? We'll talk a lot about Willie Collum, about some of the decisions in the match. What did you think about the penalty that was awarded? And of course, Antonio Cholak brought down in the box. Collum pointed to the spot. Rocky Bashiri was shown a yellow card, and Tavernier with a cool, calm finish into the corner. Hibs, of course, replied 6 minutes into the second half. Martin Boyle, who's a player that identified before the game that Rangers would have to keep an eye on, but he got himself on the score sheet. It has to be said that decent move from Hibs. Tavernier could have probably done better. The boy ghosted past him. Good cut back, and Boyle is there, showing his predatory instincts to level the game. Rangers then with the goal of the match, there's no doubt about it. Fantastic cross from Borna over on the left-hand side, and Tom Lawrence's third goal in as many games with a header from close range. That's what he's good at. Those late runs into the box, and it was a super header. And you're thinking to yourself, Rangers will go on and win the match now. However, that's when the controversial sending offs started to materialise. John Lundstrom, of course, shown a straight red as Hibs were looking to counter. Willie Collum with no hesitation reaching into his pocket and pulling out the red card. I've got to say, it's I think Lee Johnson himself, the Hibs manager, said it was harsh. And looking at the IFAB laws of the game, the only way that Collum could have sent Lundstram off was if he thought it was either violent conduct or serious foul play. It was neither of those, so it's hard to sort of justify that red card that was shown to John Lundstram. The Alfredo Morelos sending off, of course, occurred just 6 minutes after coming on to the field of play. 75 minutes he was shown a red as Rangers were reduced to 9 men, a flailing arm this time as he looked to spin away from the Hibs player. It wasn't exactly ferocious and anything like that, but it was clearly deliberate, and it falls under the category of violent conduct. So the referee in that regard had no hesitation but to send Alfredo off, and Rangers were up against it, but it looked like they were going to hold on, if you like, for all 3 points, which would have been a real hard-fought win over Easter Road. However, Josh Campbell, with deep into stoppage time, with a strike from the edge of the area, caught John McLaughlin flat-footed, and Hibs were able to salvage a point out of that. They've got a habit of scoring late goals, and unfortunately yesterday they did so again. So, yeah, the post-mortem well and truly underway. Of course, Rangers do go top of the league by a solitary point, although I'm sure that's going to change later on this afternoon when, of course, Celtic take on Hearts at Parkhead. But let's dive into some of the comments that are coming in, and we'll address those. Interesting point here on the goalkeeping situation. Alex Campbell makes a point. Hi, Alex. He says, is Alan McGregor going to sit on the bench forever, Derek? Listen, there's going to be a camp of supporters that want Alan McGregor back into the side. I'm very much in the John McLaughlin camp. I don't think I know there's supporters that have reservations with the goalkeeper situation. For me, I don't think it's an area of the pitch that requires instant changing of the guard, perhaps. I'm quite happy with McLaughlin still in there. I don't think Van Bronckhorst is going to change it for Wednesday night. And yeah, listen, it remains to be seen if Alan McGregor, he's not had an opportunity so far this season. It's quite clear that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is chosen John McLaughlin as his number one, and I just need to fully get behind him. I don't think he's had any major clangers. I think he was at fault. Well, there was a number of players at fault for that goal in Belgium, of course, against Union. But that aside, he pulled off a top save against PSV on Tuesday night. So I'm not quite in the camp that are crying for Alan McGregor to return to the side. Let's get to some of the other questions that are coming in. So many coming in, folks. I'll try and get to as many as possible. Bojangles says, James Sands excellent yesterday. Yep, totally agree. Thought he had another really commanding game. I think he's really grown into that role at centre-half. He's not everyone's cup of tea. I know he came in for some criticism on Tuesday night against PSV, I think unfairly as well. But for me, I don't have any qualms about his performance yesterday. As I mentioned, Ben Davies not in the matchday squad. He's clearly carrying a knock, and Rangers not rushing him back. But at the moment, James Sands is the first choice defender to partner Connor Goldson, and it'll be that way, you'd imagine, on Wednesday night as well. We're still waiting John Suter as well, of course, to return. But as it stands, I think James Sands certainly hasn't done anything wrong to justify taking him out of the side, that's for sure. And I think he can hold his head up high yesterday. Let's get to some other questions coming in. I want to talk about the sending offs. Mark Height says the 2 sending offs was never going to end well. Once you're down to 9 men, Mark, I think you're up against it, and it's back to the wall, isn't it? I know there was some supporters saying there was no out ball for Rangers, but I guess it is difficult when you're down to 9 men. I don't imagine that's something that Rangers trained for during the week. 10 men, perhaps. I think it was actually during Gerrard's tenure. He did. I think he did say that I think during the start of his time as Rangers manager, that there was a flurry of red cards, and I'm sure he did say that it's something they practiced in training, defending with 9 men. I think was it Ufa they were down to 9 men, I think it was. So yeah, but I don't imagine it's something that Rangers would train for. And you're thinking to yourself, they're just inviting pressure on. Of course, Hibs were they sort of had their tails up with that sending off for Morelos, and unfortunately it just looked likely that they were going to get an equaliser, and the boys struck it really well in injury time. Some question marks. I've seen some people questioning John McLaughlin perhaps not moving. I think he was partially unsighted. There's some also questioning Connor Goldson. He sort of turned his back on it slightly. So listen, it's a disappointing goal to lose. The boys struck it really well, it has to be said. But yeah, it's one that I'm sure that Giovanni van Bronckhorst and the coaching staff will want improvements in. But let's get some of the other questions. Christine says, touching on the McLaughlin, she says if they get a better defence, John McLaughlin will come good. Yep, question marks over the defending. Certainly yesterday, that's for sure. Let's see here. Andrew Simpson says the cards will get turned to yellow. I bet Morelos done nothing. Listen, it's harsh. First time I've seen it, Morelos, I'm thinking Morelos has just been sent off because he's Morelos. I think that's his first sending off, I think, in 3 years or something like that. So it's just a flailing arm. He's just trying to spin round. But of course, the linesman is flagged furiously on the side of the pitch. And when he does that, there's only one outcome. And he's sent off. I don't think that one is going to get rescinded. I'd be amazed if Lundstrom's isn't rescinded. However, not too sure what Willie Collum is thinking there with sending off. There was a pretty much a carbon copy from a Hibs player. His name escapes me, but yeah, it just seems. I know many supporters saying the Rangers referee to a different standard to the opposition yesterday. Andrew Simpson says Rangers will appeal both. Yep. It wouldn't surprise me. James Stoney actually says Morelos deserved to go, as petulant and should be moved on. Listen, he's we know he has that in his game, doesn't he? And like I say, he's really improved his disciplinary record. I think yesterday was just perhaps only Alfredo Morelos could answer why he done that. I know James Tavernier was really disappointed in him in his post-match interview with Rangers TV. I think if Morelos stays on the park, Rangers go on to win that game. So it's one that I'm sure the coaching staff will be having a word with him. There's no point on him being on the bench. Incidentally, both players will be available to play at Parkhead against Celtic, I can tell you. So that's on the Rangers Review. You can read the article on that. So a lot of people may be concerned that they would miss that game. Andrew Smart says Colin cheated us. It really doesn't matter if it's through incompetence or because he wanted to. The result is the same. Yeah, I think Willie Collins come in for criticism for many years, hasn't he? Listen, this is where I stand on it. The top flight of Scottish football shouldn't have part-time officials. If they want the game taken seriously, they need to have professional referees. They're paid enough as it is to concentrate fully on the game, to get up to speed, to have the relevant training, to make sure that decisions like yesterday are few and far between. Then, of course, there's the VAR not being introduced until after the World Cup as well. I think there was hope of introducing it before then, but it just seems a bit bizarre why it's not there at the start of the season. Harrison King does mention that VAR will not help. Listen, there's some dubious decisions from VAR as well. There's no doubt about it, and there will be teething problems. You can bet your bottom dollar about that also. But I think for the good of the game, I think it has to come in sooner rather than later. Right, let's get to some of the other questions coming in. So many coming in, folks. I'll try and get to as many as possible. Let's see here. What have we got? Craig McFarlane also touching on Morelos, saying he's a liability. Can't be trusted, let the team and fans down badly. Listen, I'm sure he'll hold his hands up in the dressing room and admit that. It was silly. It was needless. And without doubt, I think it cost Rangers 2 points yesterday. probably an element of frustration with regards to Morelos. Of course, Antonio Cholak's been in fine form. Didn't have his best of games yesterday, it has to be said, but I think he was fully justified at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst in starting the Croatian ahead of Morelos, given the goal-scoring form that he's in. It remains to be seen if Morelos plays a part on Wednesday night against PSV. I think he loves playing in Europe, doesn't he? And you wouldn't have any qualms about him playing up top. He certainly provides Rangers with that out ball and has the ability to ragdoll defenders. But you drop Antonio Cholak, it's a tough one for Van Bronckhorst to decide upon. Right, there's some questions coming in here about Rabbi Matondo. Will Sanderson says he should have been hooked at halftime. What's your thoughts on Matondo, folks? Listen, in pre-season, he had everyone purring, including me. I thought he looked the real deal. Watched him over in Belgium, and listen, everyone had an off night that night, and he just looked lost. And he struggled yesterday at Easter Road. Is he an impact sub at the moment? Is he a player you bring off the bench with around 20 minutes to go when the play opens up somewhat and the space in behind? What's your feelings on Matondo, folks? Certainly, the jury's out, I think, on Rabbi just now. He's certainly got all the talent. He's blistering pace, of course, but not quite happening for him just now. David Penny says, get Sakala in. Of course, we've not seen Sakala this season as yet. I think that tells you all you need to know with regards to what the coaching staff feel about Fashion Sakala. But it's important, I think. I mean, it was as much as it was disappointing yesterday with the draw. It's important not to throw the baby out of the bathwater, for want of a better saying. A lot of negativity I've seen on social media yesterday. Likewise, it's understandable. It's Rangers, of course, and expected to win every single game. The playing losing a last gasp goal is always going to upset the apple cart. So it's understandable, but I see, as I mentioned earlier on, Joshua's piece on the domestic form. Is that something that is overly concerning? I know some supporters not happy with the way Rangers are starting games. It was something I touched on before the game, I think on Friday on the morning briefing. I was quite concerned that, especially early kickoffs, your lunchtime kickoffs, that's mentality-wise, it can sometimes take players a little while to get into the game. It can take the fans a little while to get into the game based on the fact that it's so early as well. But is that something that Rangers need to improve upon? Right, let's get to some more of the questions here. David Penny says, Matondo, he ain't any better than Sakala, guys. We can't run a league going with young boys. Matt Robertson also echoes that. He says Sakala would have been better than Matondo. He has to show more courage. Scared of shadows at the moment. I think that's a bit harsh, Mark, but I get your point with regards to Fashion Sakala. Casey John says we miss Hadji, Aribo, and Bassi. Listen, any team's going to miss talent like that. Hadji, of course, we're not going to see him until at least January. And then if he gets back in January, he's got to get up to match sharpness. You could be talking March, April time before we actually see the best of him. And of course, it's a knee injury. So you just hope he comes back relatively the same sort of player as he was before suffering that injury. Of course, it was in January time in that Scottish Cup match that he suffered that injury. Was it Stirling Albion? I think that it was it's a major injury for him. So hopefully he's back and back to some sort of degree of same sort of ability levels than he was when he suffered that. Right, let's get to a few more comments before we wrap it up. So many come in. Apologies if I don't get to your comments, folks. James Ellsby makes a touch. Now, I see Connor Goldson has been coming in for some criticism. He says, sorry, but Connor Goldson isn't dominant enough in the box for me. I think he'll hold his hand up himself. I don't think he's playing as well as he knows he can do. For me, he's still one of the first picks in that Rangers side. I know he can be playing a bit better at the moment, but I think he's the pros far outweigh the cons for Rangers. We've seen. I'm not quite sure what a defence without Connor Goldson for Rangers would look like at the moment, but he's certainly come in for some criticism, Goldson. And I think it's something that is justified. Let's see here that Cammy26 says far too passive and pedestrian. It's been going on for a long time. That seems to be the view echoed by many supporters. Cammy, how does Gio change that? Rangers need to be better, of course, don't they? They need to go out and blow these teams away, which is what Celtic have been able to do last season. They found a way past these sort of challenges, and Rangers have generally struggled away from home, you've got to say, in the Premiership. Let's see, what else we touch on here? Where's Yilmaz? Harrison King says. Well, he was on the bench yesterday, Harrison. I think with Yilmaz, it's a case of we need to remember this is a young lad. He's coming to a foreign country, doesn't know the language, has to learn English, of course, has to learn the style of play that Giovanni van Bronckhorst is telling him to play. Also has to get up to speed with the unique nature of Scottish football, the rough and tumble style of play here in Scotland. Of course, it's unlike any other league, and it's going to take him time. I think every supporter would be understanding of that, but let's hope he's in soon, because Rangers have spent a fair chunk of cash on this lad, very highly rated. Everyone's excited to see him in action, and I'm sure we'll see him before too long. But I've got to say, Borna Barisic, fantastic cross for Lawrence's goal. I think he's been steady enough. I know that he's not everyone's cup of tea, and there's some fans that are certainly apprehensive about him starting at Parkhead, understandably so, after the visit there in February, that horror show. But for me, no qualms about Borna so far. I think you'll start on Wednesday night against PSV. In fact, I think that the whole backline that started at Easter Road will be the backline that plays against PSV as well. Andrew Simpson says Yilmaz will get his chance. Yeah, I totally agree. I think you'll have a part to play. I think it's just being patient with him. I think that's what Rangers are doing quite now. Right, one more question before we wrap up, folks. Let's see here. Who will we get to? Apologies if I don't get to your comments. There's so many coming in. I'm on my Todd here as we analyse that result yesterday. Right, let's see. Let's see. Jamie Brown says here, why are we showing these teams so much respect? It's an interesting point, Jamie. I mean, we all knew before the game Hibs are in a sort of bit of a turbulent start to the season, a really poor League Cup campaign. Of course, they were dumped out of that early on in the season. They lost the week prior to Livingston. They did salvage a draw in the Edinburgh Derby, but of course they've got a new manager in Lee Johnson who got a bit of time for Lee Johnson. He did a good job at Bristol City. He was doing a good job at Sunderland before they get annihilated 6-0 by Bolton, and he was shown the door that night, I believe, when Sunderland were top of League One. So he's certainly a manager with some credibility, and I think you will get it right there at Hibs, but it has taken a bit of time. That being said, Rangers should be expected to turn up at Easter Road and exert their dominance and blow them away. And it looked like they were going to take all 3 points, of course. I think the sendings off changed the game completely. And we're talking about the referee, unfortunately, again. But yeah, it's a fair point. I think Livingston was similar as well. I know they had a lot of the ball, but it wasn't until the second half substitutions when Scott Arfield came on that Rangers, that the old guard came on, of course, that Rangers started to get a grip of that game. And it's something that is concerning to supporters, the slow start and probably showing teams a bit too much respect. I know people are maybe a bit unhappy with the two defensive midfielders playing against teams. It's something that Giovanni van Bronckhorst likes to do it, especially away from home, going to places like Easter Road and what have you. But is that the right way forward? Who knows? But listen, it's as much as it's disappointing yesterday. It's early on in the season. It's important not to get carried away. But Jamie says 2 shots on target is pathetic. That's the thing. You can have as much possession in the world, but it's what you do with it that counts. And unfortunately, Rangers didn't do enough in the final third, and that's what's. Not only that's cost them the 2 points, of course, but the big calls in the game certainly played their part as well. But as Rangers on tour says, we'll just finish with this at 2-1 with the 11 men, and that was 3 points the ref ruined the game, but nothing will be done about it. Listen, it's an interesting one because you want the officials, you want them to be transparent. I'm all for coming out and explaining decisions after the game. Listen, it's not just in Scotland, down south as well. Managers come out and criticise officiating, and it's the managers that get dealt with. They get fined, they get touchline bans, but you never hear from the match officials themselves. And I think it's for the good of the game that there's some transparency. They can come out and say, "Listen, hold my hands up. Made a mistake." I think if that was an avenue that was available, I think they'll get a lot less flack than they do, and managers will be more accepting, and supporters will be more accepting of these decisions that go against them. But not the best of days at the office for Rangers yesterday, but they move on, of course. No time to feel sorry for ourselves. They've got a huge match on Wednesday night against PSV. So much at stake. With the Champions League group stages, the carrot there. It's going to be a tough ask. Of that, there is no question. And it'll be interesting to see what sort of changes to personnel Giovanni van Bronckhorst might make. I have a feeling there could be 1 or 2 changes to the side that started at Easter Road. But as I mentioned, I think the back line will remain the same. It'll be interesting if Stephen Davis comes back, and I'd be very tempted to play him in a match of that magnitude. But keep your eyes peeled for that, folks. Just a reminder, as you can see, a little ticker below, we've still got that great offer on the website, £2 for 2 months worth of coverage. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. I'll be doing a data match report on the game yesterday, so we'll be using all the data that comes in from our partners at StatsBomb. So that'll be on the website a little later on. I'm also going to write about the refereeing performance at some point today as well. That'll be with you tomorrow at some point. Just a reminder, those great articles on the website today. One from Joshua Barry on the domestic form, and if it's need to look deeper than just a performance yesterday at Easter Road. And of course, is the great interview there with the sculptor Andy Scott. It's a guy that created the Kelpies, of course, and also the 3 Man City statues outside the Etihad, the Aguero, David Silva and Vincent Kompany statues. He also created the John Gregg statue as well. So a great personal story there attached to him creating that. So go check it out, folks. We'll be back again tomorrow on Monday for the morning briefing. I hope you can join us then. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Sunday.